you're a super successful woman. A lot of people would just be shocked. I mean, you're one of the most modest people that I know. Every time I talk about how well you do in sales, you had a year where you did 5.8 million in sales in 1 year. So you went from, not being able to speak the language to being able to be a top earner, earning well in the six figures. So how do you feel that you were able to do that?
We moved to Chicago and we started a new life there. I hated it for a long time. I wanted to leave as soon as possible.
My childhood and the way that I've been raised in the society that we're in, where, hey, we're on social media, especially in like high school and middle school, I just always felt like I was never good enough. I felt like I didn't fit in. I felt that, once again, that I just wasn't enough.
Cheers!
Cheers! Claudia and I just cheers to our first podcast. So welcome to Tom and Claudia's first podcast ever. We've been talking about doing this for quite some time. This is my wife, Claudia. I am Tom. And what we're going to be talking to you about today is our experience in business, relationship. We're going to be talking to you about some self-development, and we'll probably sprinkle in some health and some cool stuff like that. So let's go ahead and start off by introducing Claudia. She's my wife of over 6 years. God bless her soul. I don't know how she puts up with me, but we have known each other for quite some time. I say like 15, 20 years. She says like 8 or 9 years, but we've been married for over 6 years. Before that, we dated for 3, and before that, I pursued her for like 10 years. So we'll tell you some of the story there. We'll also, get into a whole bunch of other things, but Claudia is also a beast in sales. She had a year where she did over $5.7 million in sales, and she also helped me significantly when it came to my fitness journey. So much value is going to be shared today. So excited to bring it to you. So Claudia, thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate you for this, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Like I said, Claudia isn't always the first person to jump on camera. It's usually me. So she is definitely stepping up here and getting out of her comfort zone. It's not easy to just jump in front of cameras, and that's something that I've been working on too. But why don't we start with that? How do you feel about being in front of a camera right now? I think that'd be interesting for people.
Yeah, well, this is not, I like photos and stuff, but yeah, being in front of a camera, I'm not the most comfortable when doing that.
Like most people.
Yeah, most people, I imagine, from what I heard, right? But this is exciting. It's good to step out of comfort zone, and I definitely want to support you and think it'll be fun. Yeah.
Totally. So we're here. Go ahead and start us off with a little bit about who you are and some of your journey, because you have a very interesting story.
What do you want? What should I start with?
Tell us first, where were you born?
Okay, well,
how did you end up here?
I was born in Mexico. I moved to the U.S. with my family.
Cancun? Were you born in Cancun?
No, I was born in Mexico City, and I was brought to the U.S. By my family when I was 13 years old. And we moved to Chicago, and we started a new life there. I hated it for a long time. I wanted to leave as soon as possible, but of course I was only 13 years old, so I couldn't. But I'm glad, because otherwise I would have never met you.
I think about that all the time. It makes me literally believe in fate.
Yeah, so that's a little bit of my story, I guess. I think that's probably one of the reasons why it's a little uncomfortable to get on camera and talk, because I don't know, still a little bit.
You still think?
Yeah, still a little bit, not very comfortable.
Like what part?
Huh?
Like what part?
What do you mean, what part?
Like a language barrier? Is that what you're saying?
I obviously, it's not a surprise. I have an accent, a beautiful accent.
Yeah. And let me just interject. This is the first time on podcast you're going to see I interrupt a lot too. I'm like Gary Vee, he does that all the time. But that's what attracted me to you. And
I know you always say that.
In Chipotle. Here's how we met. Like she said, if she wouldn't have came here from Mexico to the U.S., we would have never met. Like wouldn't have been going to Mexico. You were born in Mexico City, so that's not on the beach. For anyone who thinks Mexico, it's a completely different area.
Well, Mexico City is one of the it's one of the largest city in the world. A lot of people come to Mexico City, so I'm pretty sure you would have made it eventually to Mexico City, right?
That's true. But your family lives like an hour away from the city. So I don't think I would have been there.
But I would have been in the city.
Okay, cool. So we might have still met. I love that. Like, no matter what, we would have found a way. I really like that. But what was I talking about?
I don't know. You interrupted.
I was talking about your accent. I was talking about your accent. So, so went into Chipotle and heard this majestic accent, and then I looked over, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the one.
Okay, but we're not gonna bore people here with like a love story we can just talk about that in a different podcast.
Sure. If anyone wants to hear our love story, let us know in the comments. We'll tell you our full love story.
Yeah.
But let's go ahead and continue. So tell us more about your story and just what was it like when you got here to America? You said you hated it.
Yeah, well, I hated it.
You were 13 years old, and now how old are you?
I'm 30. You don't ask. I'm just kidding.
So from 13 to 30. Tell us, what you did from hating it to now. How do you feel about it? Take us from there to there.
Well, obviously, the big reason why I hated it is because I didn't speak any English. So it was a shock to go to school and not being able to communicate from being like one of the top students and in my class and participating in every dance class and speech class and just being very outgoing out there and having a lot of friends from coming here, and I couldn't really communicate with anybody, and and that was part of why I didn't want to be here. And I think it's normal for a 13-year-old to go through that phase.
Yeah, that's a huge change.
Yes. And then another reason is I was raised by my grandma was involved in raising me a lot, so I obviously wanted to go back with her, and so I didn't like it. I struggled learning English, but once I got I decided, okay, I'm gonna learn, and then I'm gonna go to Mexico City, and I'm just gonna get a job, and once I turn 18, they can't stop me and stuff.
Yes. So you had your whole plan figured out.
Yeah, I had my whole plan figured out. But then I graduated high school, and obviously I learned English. So I had more friends, and I moved in with a friend after high school. I got a job. We got a job together. And that's how I met you. And then, you got me an opportunity into sales with the company that you were working
Real quick, backing up to when we met. So when we met, how old were you?
I was 18 when we met.
So you're 18 when we met. So 5 years you've been in America. How did you feel then? Were you you were 18, so that was the time when you had talked about going back home. Were you still considering going home?
Not at the time, because I had already, learned English, and I guess at the time when I first got here, it was oh my God, I'm never gonna learn. It just seems impossible. How am I gonna learn everything, every word? It just seemed impossible.
Yeah.
But once.
So how'd you learn English so well?
I'm still learning.
You're perfect. You're perfect at your English.
I'm still learning.
You are perfect at your English.
I had my best friend Salam. Hi, Habibi. Habibti. She was a very big part of that. Even though we couldn't really communicate because she didn't speak Spanish and I didn't speak Arabic or English at that point, we would just. We started hanging out. So basically started hanging out with people that I couldn't speak Spanish with. So it forced me to learn more because I wanted to, be her friend. She was nice to me, and she made me feel very comfortable, and
Yes.
that's how I learned, just basically spending more time with her and her sisters, and and then
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the number one ways to learn. Like when I go visit her family in Mexico City for like 1 week, my Spanish goes up like that compared to when I'm trying to do it on my own with Duolingo and these things, and I don't need to learn, it goes up like you can barely even notice. So yeah, huge. Sounds like immersion, like being just forced to do it, not being around, the comfort of being able to speak English. Mm-hmm. Sounds like that makes an insane difference.
Yeah, well, so that's how I learned, basically.
Nice, nice. So here we are today, and I guess what were you're a super successful woman. A lot of people would just be shocked. I mean, you're one of the most modest people that I know. Every time I talk about how well you do in sales, you had a year where you did 5.8 million in sales in 1 year. Every time that you were in the field, you outperformed other people by not just a couple times, you 10x what other people do. So you went from not being able to speak the language to being able to be a top earner, earning well in the 6 figures. So how do you feel that you were able to do that? I think that could bring people a lot of value, and I'm sure people are curious.
I think just stepping out of my comfort zone for sure. Even when I did it, when you talked to me about the opportunity to getting into sales, I was very hesitant.
I talked her into it. Yeah, let's tell them.
And you just presented to me that possibility. It just felt very uncomfortable.
Yes. Because you were working at Chipotle, and I said.
Well, no, before, just in the office, before Chipotle, I was in the office. I was in sales, and I was very happy with just doing what I was doing in the office.
Right.
But sales, I used to just see what the other salespeople will make, and I just didn't feel like something that I could do because the same reason. I just felt uncomfortable in just being in front of strangers and talk to them for an hour or so. Just felt a little uncomfortable, and just knocking doors and being rejected left and right just didn't seem like
something you wanted to do.
Something that I wanted to do, put myself through that. But I just took a leap of faith and just see, okay, well, if it doesn't work out, I could always come back to here,
That's a powerful mindset. So you consciously had the thought, hey, I'm in the office right now, I'm making an hourly wage. Mm-hmm. I can go do this other thing that you say why were you intrigued to go out and do sales? You saw what other people were earning? Yeah,
I would say what other people were earning, and being in the office, I would say, well, I could be outside. I could just have more flexibility on if I make enough sales, I could probably take off more days off.
There you go. There you go. Figuring out how to buy time. So I think that's a huge lesson for people. Is one of the mindsets that was able to take you over that hump was, hey, I can always come back to what I'm doing now. Mm-hmm. And I think that's one of the things that a lot of people don't really think. They think that, hey, if I'm going to try this thing, their old primitive brain comes in and says that they're going to die from doing that opportunity versus just hey, I could just go back. So how were you able to have that mindset? I'm sure you were scared, right?
Yeah, of course.
I mean, how were you able to get to that mindset? Did it take you some time? Is that just a natural thing that you have where you're willing to do these things? What is it that gave you that confidence?
Well, I think one of the things that gave me that confidence is because I saw, I just compared things, how things were when I was working, at Chipotle, and how after I decided to leave that and stepping into this company, there was home improvement and sales and all of that, how it improved my life, or it was good. I was happy with the result of that change.
Yes.
And I think that was a motivation no thing to say, oh, well, you can try it. And, and last time I tried this, it worked out. So
nice. So from past experience.
Yeah, I guess, from past experiences. But
So I got a question for you. So what do you think would have happened if you went from Chipotle to working at the company I was working for, and it would have been like a tragic failure? Like, do you think that would have changed the way that you did things to where you didn't take as much risk? Or like, I'm curious of how that could have changed things.
I mean, I don't know, it's hard to say now because,
Sure.
But I'm typically not the person that will let like one thing just determine what's gonna happen next time.
Yeah.
But probably, it would have crossed my mind.
Yeah. I think about that a lot. Like, I think about how, especially younger, when we're younger, right? And that's like one of the first jobs that you had. Was Chipotle the first job you had?
Like the first real job. Yeah.
First real job. So, I mean, first real job you had, and then you try something new and it fails, like that can really cripple people. And like, I think about that all the time, and how like our childhood and like young adulthood really shapes a lot of like the things we have going on in our mind specifically. So like, for example, me, one of the things that I don't talk about a lot, but that I'm really trying to talk more about, because I come across different in front of the cameras than how I actually feel inside a lot of times, because I don't share a lot of the vulnerabilities, not because I don't want to share them, but because when I'm feeling like down or insecure or those types of things, usually I'm not jumping in front of a camera and feeling like I want to even do that, right? So like, if I'm in a positive mind state and I'm feeling great, I have no problem making a video, right? Not a problem at all. But if I'm feeling down, I'm not going to really make those videos, and I felt like it wasn't going to bring people value. So, but the reason I even bring this up in the first place is because, my childhood and the way that I've been raised, like, in the society that we're in, where, hey, we're on social media, especially in like high school and middle school, I just always felt like I was never good enough. I felt like I didn't fit in. I felt that, once again, that I just wasn't enough. And it's so interesting. I think about what caused those beliefs, and I won't get like too much into that today as far as what I think caused them, but I just find it really interesting that each of us has a unique experience of how we've grown up, and that has shaped the way that our like mindset is. So that's one of the reasons why I want to do this podcast, and I want to be doing more content, is to share the things that I've worked on to just become more confident, to become I already feel extremely successful, and I want to bring that help other people do that as well. More fulfillment, more confidence, more courage, right? And just bring people just a different way to because it's all perspective, right? Some people have never even felt insecure, right? Like, some people just they're around confidence their whole life, and they just go from thing to thing to thing. I think it's a small percentage, but like the way that we are raised significantly makes an impact on just the way that we think about things. And I think that's really, really interesting, and I thought I'd share that.
Nice.
So what are some of the, I guess,
why don't we talk about something regarding our relationship, and how it's that we can provide value? Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about business and our relationship.
Okay.
So, question for you. How long, well, let's tell everybody, how long have we been doing business together? I think this will really, really interest people.
How long have we been? I don't know, I lost count already, but I think we've been, when you introduced me to Scott, and how long ago was that? That was 2011?
I don't know how long, but literally from day one, like from day one of our relationship, we have been working together. Actually, even before our relationship.
Way before our relationship.
Yeah, way before our relationship.
Yeah, so I would say at least like 9 years.
Right. So almost the entire time that we've known each other, we've been literally doing like
working together at least, or
yeah. So, a lot of people think like, man, I could never work with my partner. I know how I feel about this. What would you tell someone? Like, is it healthy to work with your partner? Can two partners work together? What are your thoughts on that?
Well,
Coming from someone who has been doing it your entire relationship with me.
Well, I would say it comes with like challenges, it has like good things and bad things, and I think it's easier now. I think it's better now, but I think that when we first started working together, especially as being married,
Yes.
right, we had a little bit of rough patch, I think.
Sure.
Yeah. But it's definitely possible. I think that you just need to.
What was the rough patch?
You know the rough patch. What do you mean?
What do you mean? Let's talk. What is it?
Well, I think that it was hard sometimes to separate things, as business and then like personal.
Sure.
Whenever we would have a disagreement in business, then one of us will carry it into like the relationship, and
Sure.
it was like, hey, why are you upset, right? And then
Yes.
it was like nothing to do with our relationship, but it was regarding the business.
That makes a lot of
So
sense.
I think that was difficult for us, but I think that's where we increased our communication a
Yes.
lot more.
Yes.
And made it easier.
Yes.
But what do you think? I mean, I think that for me it was that, just not being able to separate, especially me. I think I was the one who had the most trouble
Right.
separating things. But what was the most challenging part so far for you?
Well, the most challenging part, I'll get to that in a second, but let me say this. I love working with you. And we have spent an insane amount of time working together. I remember literally we would be in the car from morning to night in the same car, not only working in the same job, but we're like literally in the same vehicle from morning to night. Then we'd be in a hotel sleeping, waking up together, then going back into that car, and we'd be knocking doors, generating sales. Like I'd be setting the appointments, and she'd be closing the deals or whatever. Like whatever we're doing, we're hustling all day together, morning and night. And personally, I just absolutely loved it. So much fun. I feel like we just had a blast out there, like year after year after year after year doing that. And then that was before we were married. Then we got married, and we're still working together. I'm just always trying to get more time with you, baby. So I absolutely love it. But I mean, as far as like the most challenging part, yeah, you're definitely right. Like, yeah, when it comes to the business, and I'd say probably one of the toughest things is, I'm making decisions in the business that you don't agree with, or like, getting constructive feedback on how to improve things, and me taking it personally, or like thinking that like, oh, you don't understand, how hard certain things are. So I think those are some of the tough parts that, have affected. And you're 100% right. Like, what I will say is, if you want to get into business with your partner or any family member, for that matter, like, number one advice is you always have to put your partner over anything else. So just realize that like it can't be personal. You have to be able to separate business and the relationship. So luckily I'm very good at that. I'm able to have a intense conversation about business, about hey, like like intense, and then go right into come here, baby, give me a kiss.
But I think you say that because it's you're thinking it about you being the person who's giving the criticism or
Sure.
feedback. But like, for example, you mentioned something before that you said whenever you didn't agree with decisions that I made, and me taking it personally. So so one thing you saying stuff to me and then just changing it to be like, but come here, baby, right? But what being in the other place, like me saying something to you.
Yes.
Are you able to like separate it completely, or does it still like affect the relationship and how you feel? about
Yeah, you're
our
right.
relationship at that moment.
Yeah, I mean, you're definitely right. Like, a million percent. That's a great point. That's why when you get Claudia, you get the real stuff. It ain't gonna be sugar coated. So you're like, anything you say that's, you know, even slightly incorrect, it's gonna get fixed. So that's the value that you guys are getting with having Claudia here. And you're 100% right. Like, when I'm being criticized or I'm viewing it as criticism, really it's just you trying to help me, right? But yeah, there have been many times where I have taken it as, oh man, she's criticizing me, right? She's like, you know, I'm taking it personally, which absolutely you're 100% right. It will carry over to the relationship, and yeah, without a doubt, I admit it. I admit it. But what you said earlier, I think, can bring people a lot of value is now we have learned to communicate so much more about it and really just explain how we feel, like get vulnerable with one another. Like, I believe that's something that we have done a lot more of, especially me. Like, I know that a lot of times I just think you know what's going on in my head, so now I just tell you more of what's going on in my head and why I feel a certain way, or just, you know, how I feel about certain things. And I know you really appreciate that. Like, one of the things that Claudia says all the time is, it's like, I don't want no surface level relationship. It's like, I want to go deep. Right? So how can people improve their relationships in general or in business by getting a little deeper? Why don't you share?
Well, I think I was listening to this podcast the other day, I don't remember who, but we were saying, like, basically, like, a lot of the times when we spend time with our significant other is doing something that is just an activity, right? Like, for example, and I know that at times maybe we were doing that when we used to work. I was in the field, you were in the office, right? And then
Yes.
I would come home like really late and you were at home, and then the time that we were spent together was, you know, just like eating dinner as we were finishing with work, and
Right.
then just like watching a show and going to sleep, right?
Right, it's like we're physically there.
Yeah, and it's like you're not really interacting and like getting deep with your partner.
Right.
So I think just prioritizing time of like really engaging and like getting to deep conversations, and not just like surface level stuff like watching something on TV, or you
Yes.
know, like go for a walk and just talk about like how your day really was. And you know,
Yes.
I think that once we started having more deep conversations and just getting more vulnerable with each other, I think that our communication was able to increase more.
Yes.
So I think that.
Yes, and the way that started was one of us had to talk about it, right? So Claudia told me, she was like, hey, I want more deep relationships, or more deep, what do you call it? Conversations. I was gonna make a joke, so I was like, yeah, we'll keep it clean. So she wants more deep conversations, and to be honest, I do too. Who doesn't want more of that? But you know, someone needed to say that it wasn't happening first, because to be honest, like, I lacked some of the self-awareness about that. So, you know, I guess ask yourself in your relationships, like, how deep are the conversations? I think a lot of people just go through life. I think we're trained nowadays with our phones and all the distractions that something needs to keep your attention. Like, it's hard to keep your attention on one thing for a long time. And I think that trickles over into the relationship, where people are, you know, I guess, like, looking for something to like spike that dopamine in them, and it might not be from their partner. Like, they might be like, oh crap, I need to get back on my phone, because there's like a dull moment for a second, rather than like putting some work in. Because let's be honest, I mean, it is some work, right? You have to like think of a question, you have to like, you know, be intentional with it. So it's not, anytime you're trying to change something that isn't natural, it's going to take some work to create something new. So if in your life right now you're having, you know, surface level conversations, right? Like, you know, and I absolutely still do this. It's like, I need to be like, hey man, get a little more self-conscious, or get a little more self-aware is the right word. Get a little more self-aware about this, and be intentional about having some more deep conversations. I think that's beautiful. All right, how about we jump into a little bit of health? I'll share with you guys how Claudia changed the health game for me. Here's what was happening. So I was working like morning to night every single day of the year, or for 9-10 months out of the year. And then, because we were in seasonal work, so we do roofing. So in the wintertime, we would go on trips. So for 9-10 months, morning to night hustle, and I would not be working out. And remind me, like I don't know if you were like hardcore into working out at the time or if you just had the thought, but Claudia said something profound to me, which changed the trajectory of what I did with working out. Because what I would do is, I'm like, I used to view, my mindset was I viewed working out as an hour less of work. And if you add the shower and all these, a couple other things, the drive to the gym and back, it's like an hour and 20 minutes out of your day of hustle. So to me, it was like, crap, I'm not going to take away from getting more results in business and put that towards working out, because I actually was happy with my body. And in the wintertime, when I wasn't working, I would put in like a bunch of hours into the fitness, and I was able to, like, in my opinion, look pretty good and feel pretty good as well. But what you said to me changed the game for me and really changed my life with fitness, which was, hey, like, wouldn't you rather be able to work out every single day and actually have a long career where you can actually keep doing what you're doing for a long time and look great and feel great? Like, wouldn't you want to have more longevity with it? Because, how long can you really keep this up? And at first I was like, it was like a challenge to me, like, oh, I can keep this up forever. But after I thought about it logically, it made a whole lot of sense. And the benefits of working out, you sold me on it, of having that balance of like bringing in the workout. So yeah, why don't you talk a little bit about that? Like, at the time where you were, like, how did you know that?
How do I know that it was worth it?
Like, how did you sell me versus me selling you? Like, because I wanted to sell you that, no, like, I like what I'm doing, like 9 months
Honestly, I wasn't trying to sell you. Like, I just...
But you sold me. So how'd you do it?
Well, I think you were passionate about work, right? The reason why you didn't want to work is because in your head you were thinking, like, working now means I get to work less, right? Or something.
Yes,
like
exactly. That was exactly my thought.
Yeah. So I just said, okay, well, don't you want to keep doing what you're doing for a longer time?
Right.
Because if you don't take care of your body, if you take care of your body just 3 months out of the year, then your lifespan probably will go down, and then you're not gonna be able to do the hard work that you do for as long as you probably could if you work out.
Right.
So I think it was just that what I said to you, and I think that it motivated you, or I don't know. Why don't you say what was that? The reason to work out.
Yeah, I already said it. To me, you sold me on it. It's like, she said she didn't sell or try to convince me, but man, it's like, I think that's the power of when you believe in something so much. It just, like, you see how much someone believes in it, and you see it working for them. So it must have been just working for you. And I also think, and I was like influenced towards that. Which also comes down to a principle of who you surround yourself with, you become, right? Like, you were doing it, right? You were passionate about it. And then the other thing is, like, you generated a question that I hadn't asked before to myself. So, you created a new thought that brought a new answer. So I had never asked myself, like, hey, don't you want to be able to have longevity and be able to do what you do for a long time, and like not just have to like catch up every winter to get back in shape? I thought that was real cool. So now we've been working out 5 days a week for year after year after year after year. I don't think, like, other than like a crazy sickness or something like COVID took us down for a little bit. Not that that's a crazy sickness, but just in general, like, barely haven't missed any workouts for a long time. it's been like, for me, I think it's been 4 years of not even really missing a workout 5 days a week. And how long has it been for you?
I don't know. I do miss one here and there.
Sure. So, so how often have you been working out consistently?
Like 3 years.
3 years. Okay. So 3 years of working out. What can you give to other people? Like, why do you do that? And like, what are some of your favorite ways to be in good health?
Well, I work out because I really believe that we only have one body, and taking care of your body is like really showing like love to yourself and to your body for everything that it does for you. And it's like, if you don't take care of it, right, what's gonna happen with your house or your car if you don't take care of it? It's gonna break down, right?
That's a great point. I just had a guy I saw his Instagram the other day, and it's a dude that I'm actually friends with and I follow, and he was like, I won't do business with anyone who doesn't take care of themselves physically, because if I'm not going to be in a business relationship with someone who can't even take care of themselves. I was like, dang, that is intense, but it actually makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, so that's why I am passionate about just moving my body and making sure that I do what I can. You can't control it, unfortunately. There's a lot of other aspects that we can't really control. And it's a lot to keep up, but like working out and moving your body is something that it is in our control. And it's like, we could take responsibility and like do that, and I'm not talking about like, no, everyone wants or needs to have a six-pack and like a super skinny waist and a big butt and like, all these things that social media shows and all of that. But I think that is like, everyone could benefit from like walking 30 minutes every day, or just like going on for a bike ride, or just moving your body.
Yes.
Like I heard like, Tony Robbins and all of the like, movement is life, and that's an easy way to do something that we can control. To buy us a little more time, maybe.
I agree.
So,
yeah, when you move your body, like your whole day changes. Like, think about a day when you're literally just chilling and you're just sitting. Even if you're just sitting in one place, let's say you're working, or you're watching shows on Netflix or whatever. It's like, if you're staying in one place stationary, barely moving, you're not going to feel nearly as good as if you get your body moving around. Like, life is movement, as you said. So my top health hacks that I would share, and then I want to hear yours. What are some of your top health hacks? I'll give you a couple of them. So one is the consistency in working out every single day. Because if you take a day off here and there, as you said, like, hey, you will take off days here and there, how much harder is it to go that next day? For you, yeah, you might be the exception here, but I know for even me personally, like, if I take a day off, it's easier to take another day off, right? And I'm talking about like days where you planned on going and then you let something else take priority. I think when you don't have, like, I have the mindset, and I know for a fact you have the mindset of like, the workout is the priority. That's how we start our day. And yeah, if you miss a day, it's not the biggest deal to you, because like, for sure it's the priority to you. But my question is, like, if you want health to become an area that is like foundational for you and where you are healthy, it's like, what priority are you giving to health? So that's my number one hack, is like, what is the priority that you are giving health? And if it's not a 10 or super high up there, like.
So, but what's the hack with that? Just find out what priority, like when your priority list is working out.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. Like, figure out what your priority is, and then if it truly, like, if it's not a 10 or super high up there, then make it that, if you want to see great results for your health. And then also, like, you have to see the action behind that, because if you're saying it's a 10 but you're not there every day, then it's actually not the priority. So that's like my number one hack, is like, what do you do consistently? And that's why I started out talking about consistency, but I added priority in there, because priority is what's going to determine how consistent you are with something. So that's number one. And then the second one that's going to make one of the biggest differences is going to be what are you putting into your body? And the biggest hack there that I have seen that made the biggest impact for me is tracking my food. So just by the
Yeah, but let's talk about this because this is like a couple. We're talking about couples, right? So like how easy or hard is to, I mean, how are you with your food to begin with?
How am I with my food?
Yeah, are you like super strict and you track your
Sure.
food all the time?
I'm like, I track my food, I put it down 2 times per week. So I'll track my food 2 times per week to like make sure that there are days where I'm tracking it. And then how am I with my food? I'm like, I'd say like 70-30. And this is something I think a lot of people can learn from, is that you can still eat bad, and as long as the majority of the time you're eating really good. I feel great all the time. I definitely feel like healthy. I feel like I have tons of energy. I feel like I'm very happy with my body.
What does it mean to eat bad?
What does it mean to eat bad?
Yeah.
So to me, bad would be processed food. It would be, and I know where you're going with this. You're saying there is like bad food, nothing's bad. It's just a choice. But like, let's be honest, processed food is bad. You're not supposed to eat it. Also, what is it called? Sugar. Sugar is bad. Like, these things are not good. Like bread, bad. And when I say it, it's like, yeah, you can take it however you want. It's bad. So when I'm tracking,
Take whatever you want, but it's bad.
so when I'm tracking my food, you'll see how when you do those other things, it throws the stuff out of whack. My trainer tells me exactly where my macros need to be, what my calories need to be, and the diet that I follow that has worked really well for me is 70% of the time I'm eating clean. I'm eating really, really good stuff. You know, I'm following exactly what my calories are supposed to be. You know, I'm getting enough protein in, I'm getting healthy fats, I'm getting carbs that are from whole food instead of carbs that are from, you know, processed, and I'm feeling great. And then 30% of the time, I try to do 20, but it goes from 20 to 30, I will eat the snickety snacks, the sugar, the bread, the ice cream, the processed food, like the protein bars, all those types of things. So, yeah. What about you? What would you say to that? You're going somewhere with what's bad, and I think maybe that'll bring some people some value is, hey, it's not bad, so share that part of it.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's not, the food is not like bad. I agree with you, like processed food are not gonna give you the nutrition you need, and we should like try to avoid a lot of processed food.
Yes.
But I feel like just a lot, like nowadays is like all these things in social media where it's like, oh, the food is bad, and like you think about, you have a lot of different like disorder, disease are mental because people think that like food is bad and they don't want to eat it, right? Which I just want to make it clear, like food, there's just nutritious food and foods that are not gonna give you the nutrition that you need.
That's a good way to define it. I like that.
And we should try to eat to get our nutrients, right?
Yes.
But I just feel like food in general is not bad.
Right. So why don't you talk about how you're tracking your food now? So what value has that brought to you, and what are you seeing? Like, are you noticing when you eat different things that you feel a certain way? You know, what do you believe that it's valuable for people to track their food?
Yeah, I think it's definitely valuable to track your food, to see where you are, like where you could, you know, change things a little bit, maybe get a little more of the results that you want, or the nutrition that you want. You can see like what are you missing, what you're not getting that you should be getting, right?
Yes.
It's definitely a challenge for me. I love food.
I love
food.
Oh my gosh.
And you know, I'm not a bikini competitor, or like I'm not like a fitness model, or like my business doesn't rely on like having to be a specific body type. You know, I just want to be healthy and I want to look good, but I'm not like
you
super
already
obsessed,
look great.
hardcore.
You already look amazing.
but I think it's beneficial, yes.
Yes. So tracking food. So
anything that, like you said, anything that you track, that you measure, you can make progress.
Right.
It's easier to make progress.
So you mentioned a relationship. Hey, relationship and food. What are some top ways that being in a relationship, we can be supportive of each other with our health goals?
I think just knowing what each other's goal is, like you knowing what my goal is, me knowing what your goals
Powerful.
are with fitness and health, right? And just understanding that like maybe my goal is not your goal, but how can I like support you in a way that you can achieve your goal and it doesn't deviate from what I'm supposed to be doing.
I love that. So basically it's like having some more of those deep conversations, asking each other, hey, like what do you really want to achieve with your health and fitness, right? Because back to your point, it's like, I understand where you're coming from when you say that food isn't bad, right? I'm not necessarily changing my stance on it, but it's like if you know that your partner, is okay with that, like then would you say it's best just to let them enjoy it, or what would you say?
I mean, obviously, if you see that it's a problem, right? Or hey, like if I tell you, hey, my goal is to have a six-pack, right? And if you see me eating this thing, maybe you want to say, hey, babe, I thought you wanted this thing, right? Are you sure you want to eat that?
Yes.
Or right?
So top hack, talk about what your goals are.
Yeah.
All right, let's shift the conversation to some self-development talk. How do you feel self-development is relevant to relationships? Do you think it's something that a lot of couples talk about? Do you think that it's important for us to push each other to be better? What are your thoughts about, ensuring progress personally, like for your partner, for yourself, for the relationship? I'd love to hear that.
Well, I think it's important for everyone, right, to do self-development.
Last name, self.
Yeah. And I think that it's important that you do it, that you invite your partner, right? Like, it's amazing if you guys start that journey, like, together, like, if you guys are in the same mindset. But if you're not, I feel that, like, you should bring your partner with, right? Like invite them to step into that, because number one, is gonna be easier to achieve your goals. Otherwise, like you guys are pulling in different directions, right? You're going into a different destination, and like there's gonna be some conflict there. So I think that it's important to like do it together, like at least invite the other person, because otherwise I feel like you'll eventually like lose connection because you're going to different places, for sure.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, that's like, if I was talking about like my main relationship advice, the thing that I wish that I would have known, like going way back, and I lucked out with you, obviously, like, woof, of course I did. But like, this is the main advice that I give for anyone in a relationship, just when it comes like overall to the relationship, is making sure that your goals, your dreams, that you have shared those with your partner, and that you've got to understand theirs as well, so that you really realize where each person wants to go, because some people might not care at all about progressing, right? Where like it's so important to us, like we constantly want to be better, right? We want to improve areas of our life. It's important to us. And like, thank God, because I don't think I really necessarily talked about that with you before we got, into marriage. I know what I did tell you was, hey babe, are you sure you want to be with me? Because like I work nonstop, right? I remember saying that. But I think it's way, like going back and, the wisdom that I have now and what I've learned is, because we did hit some patches, definitely like a rough patch where, right, I didn't feel supported, and where you also felt that, hey, like, what about my goals and dreams, right? And there was like a very important, deep conversation that we had where we got aligned with this, like with what was important to each of us. And I just remember, like, after that conversation, it was like, wow, like I felt way better. What about you? Like, how did you feel after that conversation?
Yes, definitely. a lot better.
Oh my gosh, like and I knew it because I could see from your energy how you felt. And obviously talking with you, like I just know that that was really important for both of us to open up about it. But back to what I was saying is the advice that I wish someone would have told me is, share those things with your partner, get to know what they want to do deeply, and like find out if you're really, make sure that you're ready to commit to that journey with them.
Yeah, imagine all the divorces that could be avoided if
Right.
you just know, like, hey, I'm going here and you're going there. Like,
Right.
there's no, like, right?
Right?
Or you could make changes. Like, you could say, like, hey, this is where I want to be. This is where you want to be. Like, how can we get here and then go there?
Yes.
Like, yeah.
And it's a fun conversation too.
Yeah.
I feel like it's just one that people don't think about, right? It's like I was just swept
Because
up.
I feel it's part of like just like this idea that we have of like, hey, you fall in love and it's like happily ever after right after that, and everything is like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Instead of just having all this like deep conversation. So, sometimes people just focus on all their stuff.
I know for me, I'll tell you what happened to me is I just got swept up. Like, I just, like, oh my goodness, like you're so beautiful, you're so amazing, you're so caring, you're so loving, you're so supportive, you're always there. Like, oh my goodness, your accent, oofta. Like so many amazing things, right? And I just like forgot about anything. Like I wasn't thinking about anything that could go wrong, right? I mean, the only thing that I had thought about really was like I knew for a fact, like I want someone where like we have a strong relationship with God in our relationship and each of us personally, and I knew for sure that I needed to let you know my addiction to working, right? And like how much time I spent in that. So those are like some of the things I'm like, all right, these are definitely like deal breakers and things that are like so important for me. But oh my goodness, some more conversations were needed. But hey, guess what? We got lucky, right? But yeah, I agree with exactly what you said. Like, if you are not in a relationship yet, or even if you are, it's like talk about these things, because it's going to be very hard for any relationship to be successful if you're not aligned. There's going to be some major tension without having that alignment there.
Yeah.
Yes, so we've talked about business, we've talked about sales, we've talked about health, we've talked about self-development. Is there anything else that you want to talk about?
I think that we covered a lot today.
Covered a lot in this podcast. This is our first one. So number one, let us know if it brought you value. I think we shared a lot of great things, and I hope it did. Let us know what those things were so that we know what to do more of and what to talk more on. What intrigued you the most here, what unanswered questions do you have, and please put a comment in just giving Claudia some love for showing up here today and jumping on camera. We really appreciate it. I know a lot of people are very, very happy to hear what you have to say. If you're on my social, you get to hear from me a lot, but this is my much better half who really brings that other side of pushing back on some of the things that I say to where you will get some of that deeper understanding. And I really, really had a lot of fun with you today, as usual, babe. Awesome, you guys. We're signing out. One final cheers. Here, you can have some. Peace out, everybody. Have an awesome day.